Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Premanandi. Thanks, Ram. Shri Prabhupada ki. Shri Kishore Kishori ki. Shri Gauritai ki. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 87. Today we start with text 48, 47. Okay. Which text is on the board there?
47.
Okay, it's 45, but I think today we read 47. So, it looks like most people have their phones, so why don't we just read the text 47? That's the verse that we start on today. Text 47. Iti adyam rishim anamya tachisyangscha mahatmana tato gad ashramam sakshat pitur dvaipayanasya me iti adyam rishim anamya tachisyangscha mahatmana tato gad ashramam sakshat pitur dvaipayanasya me. Please chant. Tiyadyam rishimanamya tachisamischa mahatmana Iti, thus speaking, Adyam, foremost, Rishim, to the sage, Narayan Rishi, Namya, bowing down, Tat, his, Shishyan, to the disciples, Cha, and Mahatmana, great saints, Tata, from there, Narayanashram, Agat, he went, Ashramam, to the hermitage, Sakshat, direct, Pitu, of the progenitor, Dvaipayana Vedavyas, my. Translation purport by just the translations here by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shukadev Goswami continued, after saying this, Narada bowed down to Sri Narayana Rishi, the foremost of sages, and also to his saintly disciples. He then returned to the hermitage of my father, Dvaipayana Vyas. Text 48. Vyasadev, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, respectfully greeted Narada Muni and offered him a seat, which he accepted. Narada then described to Vyas what he had heard from the mouth of Sri Narayan Rishi. Text 49. Thus I have replied to the question you asked me, O king, concerning how the mind can have access to the absolute truth, which is indescribable by material words and devoid of material qualities. Text 50. He is the Lord who eternally watches over this universe, who exists before, during, and after its manifestation. He is the master of both the unmanifest material energy and the spirit soul. After sending forth the creation, he enters within it, accompanying each living entity. There he creates the material bodies and then remains as their regulator. By surrendering to him, one can escape the embrace of illusion, just as a dreaming person forgets his own body. One who wants liberation from fear should constantly meditate upon him. Lord Hari, who is always on the platform of perfection and thus never subject. Lord Hari, who is always on the platform of perfection and thus never subject to material birth. Okay, purport. By glancing upon the dormant universe at the time of sending forth the jiva souls into creation, the Supreme Lord provides all their necessities. For those living entities who are fruitive workers, he provides the intelligence and senses needed to achieve success in material work. For those who seek transcendental knowledge, he provides the intelligence by which they can merge into the spiritual effulgence of God, thus attaining liberation. And for the devotees, he provides the understanding that leads them to his pure devotional service. To arrange for these varied facilities, the Lord impels material nature to begin the process of universal evolution. Thus the Lord is the nimitta karanam, or effective cause of creation. He is also the upadan karanam, the ingredient cause, inasmuch as everything emanates from him, and he alone is constantly present before, during, and after the manifestation of the created cosmos. Lord Narayan himself states this in the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. Aham eva sameva gre nanyad yat sarasat param pascharaham yaditacha yovashisheta sosmyaham. It is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 2.9.33. Primeval Maya and the Jiva soul may deserve the respective titles of Upadhan and Nimitta causes of creation in a relative sense, but the Lord, after all, is the origin of both of them. So the Upadana Karanam, the ingredient cause, that's being compared to primeval Maya, and the Jiva, in a relative sense, cause the creation, but the Lord is the origin of both. Until he chooses to accept the mercy of the personality of Godhead, the Jiva soul is anushasi, helplessly bound up in the embrace of illusion. When he turns to the Lord's worship, he becomes anushayi in a different sense, fallen like a rod to pay obeisances at the Lord's feet. By that surrender, the soul easily casts illusion aside. Even though the liberated soul may still seem to be living in a material body, the connection he has with it is only an external appearance. He pays no more regard to it than a sleeping man pays to his body, while busily engaged far, far away in his dream world. One gives up ignorance by abandoning false identification with one's material body. Sometimes one can achieve this state only by a severe effort that may take many lifetimes, but in some cases the Lord may show special consideration for one he favors, regardless of how little credit that soul may have earned by regulated practice. In the words of Sri Bhishmadev, Yamiha nirikshya hata gata swarupam. Those who simply saw Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after being killed. Bhagavatam 1.9.39. That even demons like Uga, Baka, and Keshi were liberated by Lord Krishna without having performed any spiritual practices is an indication of his unique position as the original personality of Godhead. Knowing this, we should put aside all fear and doubt and give ourselves fully to the process of devotional service. As his final words of commentary in this chapter, Srila Sridhar Swami writes, Sarva Shruti Shiro Ratna Nirajita Padambujam Boga Yoga Pradambande Madhavam Kadmi Namrayo. With their effulgence, the crest jewels among all the Shrutis offer arti to the lotus feet of Lord Madhava. I pay homage to him who bestows the material enjoyment honored by material workers, and who also grants the divine connection with him prized by those who bow down to him with reverence. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also takes this opportunity to offer this humble prayer. Hey Bhakta Dvaryam Chanchad Valadhi Roti Vomanak Prasadam Labatam Yasmad Vishishta Svena Nathati. O devotees, this poor creature is standing at your doorway, waving his tail and barking. Please let him have a little prasadam, so that he may become exceptional among dogs and get the best of masters as his owner. Here the Acharya makes a pun on his own name. Vishishta, exceptional. Sva iva, like a dog. Nata ati, having a master. Such is the perfection of Vaishnav humility. Homa Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have some wonderful verses to conclude this chapter. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, in the 10th canto, 87th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Prayers of the personified Vedas. So yes, we have a very nice conclusion to a very elaborate chapter. Very purifying to hear the prayers of the personified Vedas. We offer our prayers sometimes, but we can see the difference between our prayers and the prayers of the Vedas personified. We lack so much culture, quality, devotion, perhaps. And you all have just heard the Vedas themselves glorifying the Lord, because this is the highest function of the living entity. Satatam kirtayanto mam, to always chant the glories of the Lord. So this is the idea, to be somehow or other always absorbed in this chanting and glorifying process. Kirtanya sadahari, nityam bhagavata seva. So trying to have the mind, bring the mind to always be absorbed in glorifying the Lord. Often we go through the activities of service, but sometimes our mind is not there. Therefore we don't get the real benefit, because our mind is still wandering here and there. What we're really trying to do is help the mind become absorbed on the Lord. And the mind is naturally chanchalam hi mana Krishna. It's very unsteady. It's wandering all over the place. Arjuna told Krishna that it's easier, I think, to control the wind than this restless mind. But he says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena, by constant practice, actually it's possible. So why the mind is always directed towards material things? Why is the mind always directed to material things? Yes.
Because people, unfortunately, many times...
Do we have a mic?
Unfortunately, even the best person gets a little, how would I say, distracted, because they see other people having what they don't have. And you may have more than what you need and what Krishna has provided you to survive comfortably, but they're always wanting more, and sometimes it's greed, because there is something like overindulgence or partaking in too much. And if a person's strong and keeps their mind clear of nonsense, they can focus. So I would say, if you're not focused, and I would say that's one, and if you allow for your environment or surroundings or your associations to distract you, or I guess you would say encourage you to need more, to be like them, or I have one pair of gym shoes, she has 6, so I need to be like them. They want to be like the norms of society, and they haven't come to the conclusion, or they haven't come to the realization that the whole point is you don't want to be as those that are here that want to be in the material world. So you don't have to have more than what you need. You don't have to have what is not necessary. And that's why we're always having these problems, because we're always wanting more than is necessary.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're asking why is it that our mind, although we're here trying to serve Krishna, we're trying to chant, why does our mind always tend to seem to veer towards the material energy? And you've explained nicely, because of unfulfilled desire, unsatiated, apparent needs. We think we need something. So the idea is that the mind is a material element that's been following us since time immemorial. So it's very habituated to immediate gratification. The problem is that as the soul, the mind and the senses can never satisfy the soul. So this perpetual obsession with matter drives one deeper and deeper into ignorance. So here we were hearing how in this verse, actually it's Krishna who's behind everything. And Bhakti Yoga is the means by which we just renovate the link of love. Right now we have love for material objects, for the experience of sense gratification, so that's what's inspiring us. That's what's directing our mind. But by the powerful process of glorifying the Lord, the lost relationship of love with the Lord actually overcomes the tendency of the mind to be directed towards matter. So to give ourselves the opportunity to hear and chant, it becomes a foundation of progress in devotional life. There's many kinds of yoga. There's many studios. There's many methodologies. But we see that actually only bhakti is solid, because only bhakti redirects the mind to a positive shelter. We hear that here Krishna is the shelter that every living entity is seeking for. By surrendering to Him, one can escape the embrace of illusion, just as a dreaming person forgets his own body. So often we have the example of someone who's awake, and in their awake they forget their dream state. So this is compared to the state of Krishna consciousness, where waking up to transcendental reality is so beautiful that one actually just forgets their involvement in the material world, in the material nature. It's very insignificant. All the things that we were working so hard for, that we thought were so important, they became utterly insignificant compared to the satisfaction that the soul gets by rendering service to Krishna. And there's so many different kinds of service, there's so many different ways to serve. And we're trying to discover what is our particular affinity. How do we want to particularly serve the Lord? In other words, we can only serve mechanically for so long. Eventually it doesn't work. Eventually we have to get some inner inspiration. How is it that I want to serve Krishna, or Radharani, or the inhabitants of Vrindavan? So this is the ultimate goal. So in these verses, Narada Muni, he's just been enlightened by Narayan Rishi, and he's returning to his disciple, who's the guru of Vyasadeva, Narada Muni. And so he's going to repeat all of this. And he says, this is the answer to how the mind can have access to the absolute truth. This process of constant glorification. So we're trying to bring the mind in our activities, in our daily life, to the object of our service. And therefore we need to hear again and again and again about the transcendental realm, the beautiful transcendental kingdom of God. This is the unique speciality of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that we have such incredible details about Krishna's realm, about what goes on there, about his activities with his friends, with his parents, with his beloveds. So this beautiful picture we have to be absorbed in, otherwise we embrace we get embraced by illusion. Because we need Anandamayo Vyasat, we need some type of experience, we need some type of relationship. And if we're not able to find it in the transcendental realm, then we come down here and we are obsessed with that same lack. And we try to find it here, and it's never satiated. Arjuna asked Krishna, why is it that sometimes we do things we don't want to do? He says, Kamesha Krodeja Rajaguna Samudva. Because of Rajagun. Rajagun generates lust in the heart of the living entity. And he says this lust, this desire, this need for some immediate satisfaction is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. And we see, as Jacqueline Manchi was explaining, that greed is never satisfied. We look at the most richest people. I mean, once you reach a few $1,000,000, how much more can you really enjoy in this body? Once you get up to that standard of enjoyment, a few million, 100 million, a few billion, you can't really do much more. But what? The mind is not satisfied. Then the mind starts competing with others. The mind is thinking, I need more and more. Look at how much degradation happens in the world, in politics, in business. It's complete hallucination. You don't need much. You just need a house, you need somewhere to stay, and some food, basically. Some way to get around. But billions and billions of corruption and trillions of dollars, what can someone do with that? So this is the embrace of illusion. In this purport, Prabhupada's making a few, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they're highlighting a few aspects here. The very beginning point is that actually Krishna provides everything one needs. In the very beginning of creation, the Lord provides all the necessities. For the fruitive workers, He provides the senses to achieve success. So Krishna says, Yayatam mam prapadyante. Whatever you desire, tam satam abhajahamyam. However you approach me, I reciprocate. So in the same way, this universe, it reciprocates with the desire. Because whatever we're seeking by our volition, then Krishna reciprocates. He can reciprocate directly by giving Himself, or indirectly by providing so many other artificial forms of happiness. Like the karmis, they need some success in material work. The gyanis, He teaches them how they can merge into His Brahman. And for the devotees, He provides understanding that leads them to pure bhakti. So what is this world right now? It's simply the manifestation, the reflection, the form of everyone's desires in this universe, in this earthly realm. This small earth planet we call Bhumandala. What we're seeing are just the manifestation of different desires. And that's why the world is in such a chaotic condition, because the desires of living entities are very perverse. They're very low. They're not very well defined. They're not very intelligent. So there's a mass of ignorance, the lower modes of passion and ignorance. When there's no knowledge, then we start desiring the wrong things, just like children. And if they desire something unhealthy, unwholesome, Prabhupada says, God didn't make this world, you made this world. Sometimes people have serious theological doubts because they see so much suffering in the world. But that was not Krishna's desire, that was our desire, everyone in this world. So Krishna is reciprocating with all the different desires. And He's also saying that actually He's both the ingredient and the ultimate cause. Through Maya, through the Jiva, but Krishna is the origin of both of them. So basically it says here that one has to be fallen in any case. One has to be fallen in the material world and suffer out of misdirected desire, or one has to be fallen to the lotus feet of the Lord in surrender. So we are by nature subservient, we are prakriti. So either we become under the spell of the material energy, which makes us crazy, or we fall under the internal energy, which also makes us subservient, but a willing subservience. Usually we don't want to be a servant, but the gopis are praying that actually we're not just your wives or your maidservants. They say, but we're like your slaves. We want to serve you willingly. You never paid any money, you never give us anything, but out of our love, we want to eternally be in your service. The highest desire is to put themselves in the lowest position. They're getting so much ecstasy out of that love. So this is what Srila Prabhupada has brought. The highest spiritual realm of Goloka Vrindavan, and to invite all the souls in this universe. And it's also mentioned here the difference between the sadhana siddha and the kripa siddha. One can achieve this state by severe effort over many lifetimes, over sadhana, or just out of causeless mercy. Those who simply saw Krishna, they attained their original forms after being killed. Why? Krishna was so beautiful. Krishna's form was so entrancing. Just by seeing him, they attained perfection. Because just by seeing Krishna at the moment of death, they don't think of anything else. The beauty, the qualities, the effulgence, the radiance of the Lord, it's so powerful that their mind becomes captured by that, and therefore they attain spiritual form. And Sridhar Swami makes a very nice point, quoting that with their effulgence, the crest jewels among all the Shrutis offer arti to the lotus feet of Lord Madhava. So the offering of arti is such a sacred thing. The idea is that these elements, they're meant to be infused with our devotion, like the fire. It's meant to be the fire of our love. The water, like the water of our tears. So it's an opportunity actually to express one's devotion to the Lord. I pay homage to him who bestows the material enjoyment honored by material workers, and who also grants the divine connection with him prized by those who bow down to him with reverence. And so this offering obeisances, this is in the final section of the Bhagavatam. You can understand a text by the beginning, the middle, and the end. So the whole Bhagavatam, how does it end? Does anyone remember the final declaration at the end? Let's see what it says here. Nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam pranamo dukkha samanas tam namami harim param. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. So the very final statement of Bhagavatam, Sankirtan, the congregational chanting and the offering of obeisances. Because this is not meant to also just be a physical act, but a very deep spiritual, encompassing our whole being, to simply bow down to the Lord. We can see this as kind of a symbol of surrender. Usually we don't like to bow down to someone. But the act of bowing down is, we can see in a deeper level, it's complete subordination. And not forced, but willingly. And that's what goes on in the kingdom of God. The living entities who know how to use their free will properly, they're always putting their will under the Lord's will. And that's why they're free. They're liberated. They're using their free will properly out of love. So the highest realm is where that the volition of the living entity is simply to satisfy the Lord. Here our volition gets us into trouble. We have bad desires. We're up to mischief. We can all maybe recall when we grow up in this world, we go through different phases. First, we're in total ignorance. Then we start going to school. We're taught you should be a very good boy, be a very good girl. Here's some ethical, moral principles. And little kids, they're quite innocent. They just follow what they're told. So they have some kind of goodness, some innocence. But then what happens, there's usually a period where there's all sorts of mischief. And our desire is just to go against the system, to rebel. Then there's generally a period of rebellion. And this just causes suffering. So similarly, this material world, we're like rebelling. We want to just do our own thing. And we're taught by the pure devotees that actually that's not the best program. The better program is to completely try to dedicate ourselves to the Lord's service. So we should rebel against illusion. We should rebel against Maya, against bondage. Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita that the material body is the bondage, and what is the main aspect is lust. Lust is like the prison that keeps living entity bound in the material world. So you cannot get yourself out of that only if Krishna's mercy comes in a divine taste, the taste for service, the taste for hearing about Krishna, for remembering him, for chanting. That taste, the higher taste, that's what pulls one out from the lower taste. There's no mechanical means to do it. And that's why so many other yoga schools and systems, they're ineffective. Nowadays there's so many other movements, there's so many spiritual paths, there's so many yogis and gurus, and people are really following. I just came from a psychic fair, and there's so many different types of spiritualists there, and they all have their own healing, they all have their own program that they come up with, and many people are just uninformed. They just accept it, they buy into it. It sounds good, looks good. So there's so much misleading paths out there right now. But ultimately they cannot really help the living entity. Only bhakti, in the path of pure bhakti. We are meant to present pure bhakti, not mixed bhakti. Sometimes by presenting mixed bhakti, we can get more popularity or more following. We can be more respected in the eyes of society. But our duty is not to teach mixed bhakti. We're trying to present pure devotion, which means the complete surrender. And that's not so popular. Out of many, many thousands among men, one might be interested. And of those, hardly one knows me in truth. So our mission is to try to serve the desire of the Acharyas, of our forefathers, our predecessor Acharyas. And if we do that, then we're successful. But if we do everything else, but we somehow deviate from the principles of pure devotion, then we don't really succeed. And last point here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, unless we're, we can see, fortunately it's explained a little, but it's quite technical, the Sanskrit. He's making a pun on his own name. His name is Vishwanath. So what he's doing is using a few syllables of his name to make a comparison to himself as a dog. Vishva, exceptional. Svaiva, like a dog, Nata, having a master. So he's saying, oh devotees, this poor creature is standing at your doorway, waving his tail and barking. Please let him have a little prasadam, so that he may become exceptional among dogs and get the best of masters as his owner. And it's explained that this is the perfection of Vaishnava humility. So we need this. This is very inspiring, and this we look up to any examples of humility, because our main obstacle is our false ego, telling us we're very great, we're very important, we're a very big person, when in fact the soul is 1/10,000th size the tip of a hair. And even that, we're in a fallen position in the material world. And even to be in the material world, most of us are taking birth in very low families, in very degraded culture and society. So therefore sometimes we say like the lowest of the low. But our ego is thinking we're very good, we're very big, we're very important. So someone like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, a great, very exalted person, born in a very high position, that means from the beginning of life being trained in Vaishnavism, spiritual culture, and being a very brilliant person, a genius, and also a pure devotee, he's saying, I just want to be a little dog at the door of the Vaishnavas. the pure Vaishnavas, those who can bestow the treasure of bhakti. He says, just give me a little prasadam. This way I can become a good dog. So the dog, we often we're a little heavy with the dogs. We tend to speak bad about dogs. The dog is not often regarded as the most highest creature. Of course, in the West, people really love dogs. But those who've been to India, they know how the dogs live over there. And sometimes the dog is explained as the most defensive, like the whole concept of the dog is like to defend his territory. So it's a very low base consciousness of protection, material, and material defense. But from this point of view, the dog, in a spiritual comparison, it's a very beautiful example. Because the dog is very dedicated to their master. You don't see in other species this type of loyalty. There's some dogs, they're so loyal to their master, they die for the master without even thinking about it. So that's the qualities that he's referring to that can inspire us, the disciple willing to do anything for their guru. And in that way do anything for the Lord, because we don't serve Krishna directly, we serve through the guru and through the devotees. In this way, Krishna says, Bhagavat Prasado, you get my mercy. So we've concluded this chapter, and tomorrow we'll begin chapter 88, Lord Shiva saved from Vrikasura. Thank you very much. It's always very wonderful to be able to narrate a few verses of Bhagavatam. Hopefully there is maybe some insight that we get from this. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments or contributions from devotees?
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. You said about mixed bhakti.
Yes.
Mixed bhakti, isn't that the beginning stages of bhakti itself? I mean, does it?
Yeah, you can say that. The beginning is mixed. It can be mixed with fruitive desire. Means you want to get something out of bhakti. We do bhakti because we'll get something from it, something material. So that's mixed motive. We cannot develop pure devotion as long as we're thinking, if I do this, I'll get something out of it for me. Eventually one has to, we're guided, instructed that eventually we have to go beyond that. So we may not be able to get the gift of the holy name as long as we're maintaining these type of attachments. We're trying to get something from Krishna, get something from our service or from the holy name. Then the mercy cannot flood the heart, because it's incompatible. Pure devotion, it means there's no desire for remuneration, no desire to get something, just to give. That's high platform, that's the pure devotion platform, but that's what Srila Prabhupada through all his books is teaching. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Sometimes, we hear that bhakti is not for everybody. It's for everybody. Sometimes we hear, it's so advanced, that people can't really, it's a gradual process. So, everybody can understand it. And most of us can, gradually moving to that point where we can, devotees can understand it. Non-devotees can't understand it at all. So,
Yeah, I haven't heard that bhakti is not for everyone. I've never heard that. Generally, bhakti is for everyone because it's the true nature of the soul. It's who we are. It's what we are. It's our innermost nature, our dharma. It's the jiva dharma, the duty of our soul, our nature, to express and exchange love with God. So bhakti is definitely for everyone. But it's true that it's rare those who can take it up very seriously in this lifetime. Why? Again, because what our acharyas are giving is a very high standard. It's a very elevated practice of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So we are practicing, we're aspiring for these higher levels. And certainly when Prabhupada was on the planet, that very high thing became very common actually. Hundreds and thousands of people were taking up this practice eagerly. So since Prabhupada's departure, we've seen a sharp decline in the absence of the very exalted spiritual master. There's often been a decline. So we're kind of been in that phase a little bit, but now it's also very much spreading and growing a lot. So, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
At
the beginning of the class, you were talking about the jiva's relationship with the mind. We've been in contact with the material nature, in Prabhupada's words, since time immemorial. So I find a lot of times, myself, other people, we identify with ourselves as the mind. And this chapter's brought this theme up several times throughout the purports, particularly. So I wanted to see if you'd speak a few words on differentiating oneself as the soul instead of the mind.
Yeah, my experience this has been mainly on book distribution under like intense sacrifice, when we're really going out long hours and the mind in the beginning is putting up a lot of fight. We start to always hear the mind. But what happens when we push ourselves a little bit beyond our comfort zone, then what happens is we experience a whole new life. It's like a new breath that comes into us, and we realize, hey, this is not so bad. This is not what the mind was telling me how hellish it was going to be. Actually, this is great. I like doing this. Like, this is what I need. I feel more alive. I feel more awake. So it's at those moments then we realize the mind, it was actually not us. It's just a combination of fears and desires. So we have to the phrase is break through the mind. By intense service, we can break through the mind. The mind is always trying to keep us down, but we don't realize it until we push beyond it. So in those times, breaking through means by the mercy of Guru and our service, we're actually to see the mind for what it is and see that all of those things, that's not me. I don't need to succumb to that. I had a nice quote I saw recently in a presentation by our Guru Maharaj. He gave a talk on the art of meditation. And he shared one slide that I appreciated a lot. I took a little photo. It says, depression is a prison where you are both the suffering prisoner and the cruel jailer. So depression, people, they get so down, but they're also themselves putting themselves in that position. Similarly, the mind is like that. It's like, it makes us suffer, but we're under the mind. So we're actually voluntarily putting ourselves under the whims of the mind. We're surrendering to the mind. So we don't have to do that. And gradually we learn how to go beyond that. and how to not surrender, not give in to the mind and the mind's demands, but to try to transcend the mind. And it happens through service. Because most of the time we're just under the whims of our mind. It's hard to make that clear distinction. The mind is very powerful at those times. When we're doing some intense service, then we realize actually I'm more powerful than the mind. I don't have to be under the jail of that mind. So in the conditioned state, the mind is the worst enemy. The mind is the friend, that's a very high level. When our mind is dragging us to do more service, to read more, chant more, get more absorbed. That happens occasionally for us, but the majority of the time we're under the mind is more acting as the enemy. So it takes this intense seva, or preaching, in my experience, to help, as we say, get off the mental platform. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. Okay, I think we'll make this the last one. I think we're supposed to stop right now. So we'll have to try to keep it short a little bit. Yeah, very short, please.
Okay, yes, the class is going well, and I'm going to make it brief. You were just speaking on the mind. You're absolutely correct, because what happens, though, I think, if you are really focused and doing well, that it could be family. The family, oh my goodness, that's the one that'll get you. Even if you're on the best track, the circumstances with your children or family, that can overtake your mind because the heart is involved. Yeah. Now, that can also happen if you're doing something on the darker side, if the heart is corrupted. So now, that's all I had to say about that. Now, when we were speaking of bhakti, we had one of the Prabhus speak on bhakti, and it's not for everyone. Well, what happens is if you're wavering, or if we are wavering, then of course it becomes a struggle, because of course we see yoga as the gymnastics or the contorting or whatever. But of course we've been taught that bhakti is the highest level. And it's, I know I do a lot of, I guess you would say, activities, or I'm trying to do whatever I can, but it's not because of looking for that ulterior motive or looking for accolades. I'm fulfilled because I've accomplished that goal, or because I've made somebody better, or the circumstance. So bhakti is, like you were saying, if you're doing bhakti because, oh, Krishna's going to get me that car, or I'm going to get more money, or I'm going to become a brahmachari because they see me doing this or that. No, that's not why you do it. Because you want to be pure. And your nature, and even if you didn't have the nature to be pure, once you practice the bhakti and you're doing the chanting and you're focusing, you would naturally want to be the ultimate.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm afraid they're very strict about time, so we can talk more after. Thank you so much. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi, Hari Go.